I want to go back to DeShaun Watson from more of a contract situation standpoint, because his cap hit this year is not about $9.4 million, but then he's about $55 million for the remainder of the contract and all guaranteed money. You think there's any way that maybe they would be able to restructure that kind of thing to make it work? Because they're going to have a hard time keeping a lot of their draft picks from 2019 and 2020 that have done very well.
Yeah, I mean, welcome to the name of the game in the NFL, right? I mean, that's one of the Browns' safeties is a guy named John Johnson. He's a really good player. Why did the Rams have to let him go? Couldn't pay him, and that's, I guess, the mark of a good team is when you have a lot of guys that are on good contracts. They signed Nick Chubb to his extension. Myles Garrett a couple years back was the highest paid defensive player for about a week before Joey Bosa signed his deal. So Denzel Ward got his money. Wyatt Teller, Joel Bitonio are top 5 paid guards. And then you talk about DeShaun Watson. Yeah, the salary cap is going to jump. Really what the Browns, and this is why Jimmy Garoppolo really didn't seem like an option for them with the $24 million he's owed, they need to roll over a lot of cap. So that's like when the NFL, I think most people probably know, unused cap from one year, you can roll over to the next. At this point, I've seen different numbers. It goes back and forth. I just know it's over $30 million is what they have. They really want to roll over a lot of that and be able to apply that to next year, win some of this money. And yeah, there's always going to be potential casualties or, guys that they're going to have to restructure. I guess the only good thing is some of these deals were done, with the salary cap on its way up. Maybe it'll kind of give you some wiggle room there. But Andrew Berry, the one thing is he's his third year now as general manager. He loves those veteran 1-year deals. He really does. It's what he got Jadeveon Clowney back on. Another guy is Anthony Walker. And he doesn't mind signing guys for 1 year, a couple $1 million to just kind of plug and play a spot, and then knowing that you have your franchise guys that are making all the money. So, yeah, I mean, he's got, a lot of money that is about to hit. They do have some wiggle room, though, which is rolling that cap over.
We are talking to ESPN Cleveland radio show host Matt, the great Fontana. Matt, the AFC North is so very interesting, and it's stacked. We talk about how strong the AFC is, but you look at the Steelers. The Steelers are a much better team. They added Jack in the offseason. This defense is going to be high-flying. It's going to be fun to watch. They added some good coaches in the offseason. And offensively, they questioned, who the starting quarterback is. Is it Mitchell Trubisky? Is it their rookie? It could be anybody playing and starting over there for the Steelers. But then you have Baltimore. They upgraded offensively this offseason. They added Hamilton in the draft. This is going to be a high-flying, fast-paced defense. And then there's always the Bengals, who added to that offensive line. The weakest part of their whole team was their offensive line, and they added possibly 2 Pro Bowl players to that offensive line. So when you look at where the Browns are in this division, where do you think they match up?
I mean, I think it's like anything. It's what if I had DeShaun Watson for the whole season, you can make the case that they could be the favorite. He's not. It's pretty clear that they're third, maybe even fourth. I think most people are expecting that down year for Pittsburgh. I kind of am. I've talked to some people that cover them, and they just say Kenny Pickett is like not even close. Like he doesn't even look like he belongs on an NFL field.
Really?
And some people are talking to. They said actually, Mitch Trubisky will get the start,
of course. Yes.
But they said Mason Rudolph is actually the one that they think has had the best camp. Could be in line. Like again, if they start Mitch for a little while and then it starts going bad, then they could turn over to Mason. But I've heard that Pickett, and again, I'm not out there. It's just this is off of things I've heard from people. But they said that Pickett's not even like remotely close. So that'll be a tough situation for them. I know Tomlin's got that record. Of going at least 500. And you're right, that defense is very good, but you can make the case Browns or Steelers at the end. With Baltimore, if anything, the Lamar contract, if that's going to kind of bleed over, I think a lot of people are looking at them trading away Hollywood Brown and just, what were they doing there? I think that probably ticked Lamar off maybe a little bit too, but you have arguably the best tight end in the league, and you're getting J.K. Dobbins back. They lost Peters and Humphrey last year, so they're fine and just getting healthy, right? Lamar, Dobbins, Gus Edwards, they lost some guys on that offensive line, so their health's fine. And then the same thing you mentioned with the Bengals, they go out, they get Alex Kappa, they sign La'el Collins. The one thing that they needed to do was protect Joe Burrow, and they did that. And I think the only potential is that hangover, right? Can they get back there, or was it a fluke, or are people? as crazy as it sounds, like, are they going to figure out a way to try to defend Jamar Chase? Is now all of a sudden going to be, hey, we are going to stop Jamar Chase, let Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins try to slow us down or try to beat us. Well, that might be a mistake too. I don't know. I just kind of projecting maybe that the Bengals won't be the best team in the state, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. I think when you look at how it shakes out, there's just a lot of unknowns, and for some, again, it's Lamar's contract. Can the Bengals keep it going? And then I would say 3 out of the 4 have quarterback questions, right? Is Lamar's contract going to bleed in? Who's starting in Pittsburgh, and how good can Jacoby Brissett be?
So I wanted to ask about Lamar's contract because he set a week 1 deadline. Do you think that'll impact the way he plays too? Because everyone knows, especially with running quarterbacks, a lot of the times one injury could definitely hurt that kind of thing, because he turned down something that would have made him the second highest paid quarterback. So what do you think in terms of the approach for the Ravens and for him? Because maybe he doesn't trust the Ravens, like you were saying with the Brown incident.
Brown's kind of created this because he wants a fully guaranteed contract. That's everything I've been reading, and it's tough because Lamar represents himself too. So it's not even like he's got an agent that he can go off to the practice field and say, Eric DeCosta, go call my agent. He is his own representation. And you're right, he was offered money that rivaled the Kyler Murray deal, and he said, no, I want fully guaranteed. And the Ravens were like, well, we're not going to do that, because when they get hurt, they want that money. So there's only one way for that to be proven, and that's for him to get hurt, and for him to I think he did last year, unfortunately, and prove to the Ravens how important he was, and they still didn't give him the guaranteed money, or at least what he's looking for. Now I understand completely that he's asking for something that's only ever been done once in the history of the NFL, and that was the DeShaun Watson deal, and the Ravens say, hey, that's their deal, not ours. But for him to go out there and say, I'm going to go play, fighting for guaranteed money that really matters, because I could get hurt at any time. Power to Lamar. Because if I were him, I'd be like, I'm not stepping back on that field. That's not how this is going to happen. And they could franchise tag him. I've seen that too. He's obviously getting guaranteed money this year because it's the 5th-year option. And then next year they could franchise. I guess they can franchise tag him again, but that's guaranteed. I don't know. I guess that's why I'm not an NFL GM, but I would just say, okay, of that guaranteed money that you would have given him, franchise tagging him twice, why don't you just come and find a way to meet in the middle with the contract? But, we know how good Lamar is. Lamar is without a doubt a top 5 NFL quarterback, and he's electric for what he does and how he can do it. But can you really just shut that down in week 1 and say, I'm not going to worry about it? Is it like when you're out running and in practice and you feel a twinge or whatever, in a game you take a hit, something like that. It's a lot. I kind of, maybe as a Browns fan, I hope it bleeds into the season, because then it would spell doom for the Ravens, but we'll see.
I will say this. I do like Lamar Jackson. I really do. I don't know if he's a top 5 quarterback. I would say he's a top 10. I would put him 9 or 10. Even winning the MVP a couple of years ago, there are things about Lamar Jackson that scare me as he gets older. Because he depends a lot on his legs and less on his arm. He's going to have to do what Russell Wilson did as he got older, is became more of a pocket-present quarterback. And if Lamar does that as a lefty, I think he could be very successful here. Now, that's what scares me. I don't know if he can. I don't know if he could take the pressure in the pocket. We've seen it in the playoffs. He's not a good pocket-present quarterback. And when teams start to put pressure and bring up safeties and hide safeties in the blitz, he's running for dear life. And that's what scares me about Lamar. Teams know how to stop Lamar Jackson. They just don't do it in a regular season. They wait and they have all these different blitz packages that they use in the playoffs. So that's what scares me about Lamar. But I think Lamar is a sensational quarterback, and I agree with you. Lamar has to protect himself, not anybody else. Protect himself, because his legs, his arm, that's the golden ticket. And that's the most important part of his career, is getting everything he can right now and if he doesn't get it, I'd sit out. As everybody knows, we are talking to ESPN Cleveland radio show host Matt Fontana. Last question for me, Matt. There are a lot of juggernauts in the AFC. Everybody keeps talking about the Chargers, and they're talking about Vegas, and they're talking about, oh, look at Kansas City. They got weapons now. It's not just one guy. It's a bunch of guys. And Pat Mahomes looks sensational right now. And then we talk about Buffalo. Josh Allen looks, he put up a 40. Well, Buffalo put up 40 in a preseason game. So who is the juggernaut in the AFC?
I'm still on the Chiefs. I'm with you. I think everybody wants to look at Tyreek Hill and say that he was a big part of it. I think it was more, and I'm not saying Tyreek Hill's not talented. He is, but I think that was more of the creation of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes for that. I'm picking the Chiefs to win the AFC this year, so I would probably have to say that they're the juggernaut. Real tough sledding for the Raiders, just with how good that division is, and Devontae Adams certainly helps. I do have some questions about Josh McDaniels. We'll have to see about that. I'm a pretty big Justin Herbert guy. I think he's going to be really, really good, so I think the Chargers are going to be just fine. I'm not ready to start crowning Denver so fast. Like, I like Russell Wilson. Always been a big Russell Wilson guy, but key guys coming off some injuries, so we'll see what they do. I think the South pretty much, I'm not a big believer in the Titans nor the Colts. I think they kind of sucks. And then the East, I same thing. Like, I think Buffalo. I think the biggest thing that not a lot of people are talking about is losing Brian Daboll. And, that just, I've seen that kind of happen before, right? Where you talk about, okay, yeah, I know Josh Allen is very good. They have a lot of talent there, but when you lose that chemistry, when you lose just kind of that sync that you have, again, they could come out and prove me completely wrong and they could just pick right up. But I just think that is a little bit of an under radar thing that I'm just keeping my eye on with them. But if I had to pick one, they're my pick to win the AFC this year. I think Kansas City don't skip a beat. I think Patrick Mahomes coming right back. Again, like anything, if they can stay healthy at some key positions, specifically that offensive line, I don't see any reason they're not back in the Super Bowl.
All right, my last question. One guy on both sides of the ball, one offense and one defensive player that's kind of under the radar that you think will have a big impact for the Browns this year.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Tua.
Yeah. That's one guy. I don't like. That's
it's Tyreek on that one.
of course, him, and then Devontae Adams, of course, got to hype up Derek Carr, and it's just like it just comes off asinine to me. I don't know, it's kind of crazy because also Watkins was talking smack too, and I was just like, okay, fine. I'll do defense to start. There's a few newer guys over there. Greg Newsome, second-year corner out of Northwestern, first-round pick. I'm a huge believer in him. I think he and Denzel Ward will eventually become the best corner duo in the NFL. I think he's got a lot of skills. Unfortunately, he's been slowed by a little bit of a hamstring injury in camp. He'll be ready to go for the season. Another guy, he's under the radar to a point because every single person picks him for this answer, and his name's Grant Delpit. Safety out of LSU. He missed his first year. He tore his Achilles, so he played last year, his second year, but really his first year. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He's got every tool to be an all-pro safety. He had injury concerns. That's why he fell to the second round. Unfortunately, those came to fruition, getting hurt in his first training camp, but he's back healthy again. So I'm really going to look to him to make some plays. And one other guy, too, Jordan Elliott. He's got to step in. They have brand new D tackles this year, and we've heard nothing but rave reviews on Jordan Elliott, third-year guy out of Missouri, on that D tackle side of things. So those would be guys defensively. Offensively, you're probably talking wide receivers. Donovan Peoples-Jones, big tall kid out of Michigan, third year. He's going to be your number two. He's learned a lot from Amari Cooper so far in this camp, just as body control, different ways to run routes. He's got the physical skills to be an impactful wide receiver. I mentioned David Bell, third-round guy out of Purdue. People were a little concerned about his speed. He didn't run an extremely fast 40, but he doesn't drop anything. Like we counted, he said he had one drop all of training camp at this point. He's pretty sure-handed, so he could be a nice slot guy to keep an eye on. It's going to be pretty wide open in that wide receiving room, so I really think they're going to be rotating a lot of guys in there.
Well, we really appreciate your time. As always, we'll definitely get you on again. Keep ticking, man. Keep, doing what you're doing over there in Cleveland. We've been listening to you. Big fans of you. Big fans of yours and your team over there in Cleveland. Thank you for joining us, bud.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me on.